Hi, today I will show you how to go over how to put a kickstand on the T4, new QS motor, new charge port, new DC-DC chip. You can follow this QR code right here and it will lead you to a video to install it for the T4. And here's a close-up look of which part you get in the box. Make sure you inspect them. So, QS motor, it will come with the off-road tire first. This or the riser, which we'll go over, this is for the riser too. DC chip again, new charging board where it will balance better. And this is the kickstand. So the screw, they do give you extra just in case you lose it. And then I'll show you where they will go when we start. All right, now for the tool. If you have a hand tool, that'll be great. But if not, you will need a Phillips 2.5, 3, 4, and 5 Allen. Let's start with the pedals. So number 5, either or. I like these better because the tension on these sometimes are tight and this gives you better leverage so you don't strip those. So there's 3 points you have to pay attention to. 1, 2, and this one right there. Make sure this is just loose. You don't have to get it all the way out. I'll show you how loose and then you can get it out. Pay close attention to right here. That is all you need. If you take it all out, there's a really good high chance of 95% it will not go in. So please don't take it out. Just do one turn, it's loose, and then now you can just push this out. Ta-da! Now, with the pedals off, we can start installing the kickstand. It will help with assembling the wheel later, and you will see why. So these are specific size. They are not universal. You see the curve right there. So this is going to your left of the wheel. You can see how it's tapered inward. On this side, if you put it wrong, it will not fit. So what you will need for this is a number 4. If you had a hand drill, it would be much faster. So number 4. And 2 of these. Number 4 Allen. They already have pre-cut holes right there. So line them up. Don't tighten them in all the way just yet. Around 90% is fine. With the second screw in, it will hold it from moving. Now you can come back and tighten the first one. Now we'll repeat the process for the other one. Again, number 4 still, and grab 2 of the number 4. Now to the last piece of the kickstand. Pay attention to the taper on each side. All right, you will need 4, number 3. Remember, they still give you extra just in case you lose. So we'll grab the number 3 Allen. Make sure it follow the taper correctly. Don't fully tighten them like always. If you only have 1 point to screw in, it might twist it in your hand. So make sure you have 2 screw in. Now your kickstand is done and ready for the next step. Now, set it up. It's a baby master. All right, now we can start disassembling after installing something. Make total sense. You will need number 3 to remove these 4 screws right here. Now, pop the trolley out of the way. So, grab your 3. I like to use this one for these rather than the hand drill, just because it's kind of hard to see sometimes. You don't want to put your hand drill and then just twist something. Wiggle it slowly, just in case you didn't fully untighten it. You don't want to do it so forceful and rip it off. So wiggle, all right, it's loose. Get it out, one side first, and then the other side will come off a lot easier. Next part, we'll remove the top cover just so we can disconnect the battery. And these are number 3. You can hand drill this for unloosing. So these last 2 are very tricky because this is in the way. I like to take them off. It also will help with the later step. So you will need Phillips head for these 2. Get it out. Now to get it out, press, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That's it. All right, now back to your number 3 to get these last 2 out. Take off the cover, just wiggle it a little bit, sometimes a little stuck because there's some silicone around like this area. There you go. Now, we start unhooking and discharge. So the main power. Gotta wiggle it sometime. There you go. Then power buttons. That's how you discharge it. And you can keep pressing it several times just to make sure it's fully discharged. So now what that do is, if you accidentally drop a screw or you're wearing a ring and you didn't realize it and it tapped anything inside, it won't damage it. It will make a spark, but at least it will save your board. All right, now we unhook the rest of the battery and get them out of the way so we can get to the base of the wheel to put in the riser. All right, all 4 battery out. Now we need to get the motor cable right here out. So to get there, you will need number 3. This one. And you see the screen just light off. Now, to lift it off, be really careful here. Make sure you give it a little wiggle and then pull off. Now, the motor wires. These might be a little tough. You might have to do like a wiggle, kind of just get them started. Like that. All right, all 3 out. You don't really have to worry about the color because Godway have learned. Ta-da! You can read the label and just put them by color in after. All right, don't forget the hall sensor right here. You might have to wiggle it a little bit before you pull it out. That. Take this out, and as you notice, it's kind of coming off a little bit, the shielding right there. So if it's just coming out like this, you can push it down easily, but if it come out fully, just pull it out, it's fine. And I would just keep it on the connector. So just plug them in like normal. You can only do one way in, you can't just, so keep it there. And afterward, you can plug them directly back in. You can see the outline of the protective shield, the white line right there. Yep, they go that way. So you see the gasket on this section is facing this way. Gasket, gasket. And then just plop it in. That. Now to pull these out, because we will remove the battery outside just to make more access to install the riser. So just pulling these out. Be patient. They could be really annoying. What I like to do is doing this one way and not doing it like pull them out equally, because then it puts strain on the tip. So I just do yank up one way, over, and come out. All right, your battery are out of the way. Now this is even harder. Be patient with these. You have 4 different cables coming out in one spot. I normally take these off. Do not lose them. these are for protecting from all touching each other. So if they touch, your motor will clog. So it's fine like this, there's no power to it, but when there's power and somehow they touch, it will stop your motor from working. So, but yeah, keep these safe. Now we're gonna take the light off because the cable is kind of right there. You can see the screw. So we have to take this off anyway. All right, unplug these, wiggle, 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 pull. It's fine, those are just silicone. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right, now this should be easy. Do be careful, these are more sensitive because they're small, so you might pull these off. So I pull one side, stretch one side, kind of just squishing them in. And then you can use the back to pull it a little bit. You never want this back to be your primary pull out because then you will pull the tip out. So as you push the head in, you can slightly in the back. Keep pulling, pulling slowly out. There you go. Do the same for the side. Do not just try holding this and just do that. Now, to remove the headlight, they are held down by 4 number 3 Allen. All 4 screw off. Give it a little wiggle. Sometimes sit there a little tight. There you go. Now it's free. All right. To access this screw, it's a number 3 Allen. Now with the bracket free, you can see it moves so much easier. Now my order to pull these out are usually the shortest. So this one, you stretch one side, again, kind of pulling the whole thing out first. But when you get to the shortest one, you stretch on this opposite side so you can get this tip out. Be really patient with this. It's rough. It might give you a cramp, so stretch your fingers. So one out. Now, this one closest. Pull, pull. Trying to stretch it over. Next one. And last one. Do be careful with the last one. These have a lot more smaller wire, but they generally come out easier after the big 3, but still do be careful. All the wire. Technically we should, because this is the old motor. We did tell them not to use it, so we could just... Now it's free. You can let it hang. We'll get to it after we deal with all 4 batteries. Before we can remove the rear battery, they have bracket right there that using a number 3 Allen. So let's get them out of the way. To remove the front battery, you will need a number 4 Allen for 1, 2, 3, 4. Careful with the last one. Hold on to the battery. Ta-da! Now, repeat the process for the rest. Now's the time to get the motor out and get to your new motor. So, this is the optional part. If you are keeping this street tire, you do not have to add the riser. It will work just fine, and you can just pull the motor out, swap the tire over, and put it back. But if you want the off-road tire, you will need this. And now I'll go over the process of how to add this to make sure your knobby will not touch the top. I like to start with the left side, the one with no cable. So we'll lay this down. This side will face up. You will need number 5. You definitely will need this to loosen it up so you don't strip it. So be careful here when you see how you don't have a lot of access space right there, because this is in the way. Make sure you deflate your suspension. Just unscrew, get a 5 or anything smaller right there, and press it a few more times. Just tip it up a bit, and the weight, gravity will do its job. Thanks, gravity. Use this one first. This end will always give you more leverage on really tight screw, and these are Loctite, so loose. One turn is fine. Go over the rest. Now you can change to using something longer just to make it easier. So if you have hand drill or just T handle. To the other side. Careful when you stand it up. This might fall off or it might stay, but you will need to get this off at some point. You can also lift, kind of squish that out like that, and just pull it out. Now to the other side. This side, there's a few more steps. You see these fill up right here. You have to make sure those are out before you can pull the cable to access this one number 5 Allen right there. All right, get your Phillip. Do be careful with these. They are really easy to strip. Make sure you pressure it down, twist. If you notice that the moment you twist and you slip already, do find a different head. Those matters. Now follow the same process for the rest of the Phillips. Move that. And this will come out pretty easy. Now you have access to that last Allen. Now repeat the same process. Start with the L to loosen it up before you use longer T-handle or hand drill. You got all of the Allen out. Now to pull out the motor. Be really careful. It's your old motor, but careful. Like that. There's a little gap right there and right here. Slowly edge it forward and back. Careful not to lose this, because we will reuse these for the new motor. Now we got the motors out and it's getting tire change off screen. We will change the charge board. What you will need is a number 3. What is? There's 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. And you will notice that this cable was kind of in the way. So our first step to remove it. Wiggle it, as there's a little silicone will help it pull it out. Looping it. Out. Now we can access that screw. Careful with this. Now pull it up. You might have to wiggle it a bit. Some of the base was silicone down. There you go. Old one. New one. Now we'll put it in. We will use the same 3 screw that we took out. And there's only one orientation. This one screw in the back and the two in the front. Careful so you don't squish this cable right there. Make sure it's just flat inside. It's not wiggling as much. All right, now you just have to screw it back in. Again, careful with this side. You don't want to screw through those cables. Make sure it's tight. New charge board. Right. Next, now we are adding the riser. There's a few more steps, but this is the part for them. So you will need a 4 for this, a 5 Allen for this, and do it for both sides. All right, let's start with the 4 first. Number 4 Allens. Do be really careful. Twist it with your hand first if you're using hand drill. Then you can use it. It's really easy to strip because of how short it is. Now use a number 5 Allen, the L-shaped one, and loosen it. They should be really tight, so this will make it easier after a few turns. Do the same for the top. And then you do the same for the other sides, then you can just remove those two completely. One last step is to get the suspension out. You can either pull it from this or this, but I always recommend take this one out. And you will need 2 number 5. One to hold it and the other one so you can twist it. And twist it really tight like that. And now you just have to twist it until it's loose and get it out. And you might have to lift the suspension a little bit because physics, and you can pull it out. Careful, this might fall off. And I will show you where they go after. We move it to the floor for better leverage to pull it off if the wiggle and just pulling it off doesn't work. Some of them are like that, some of them just a little tolerance wise. So 1 foot on and pull. Now put it to the side. Back on the table. Careful. Last part before we can put the riser in are these screws right here. They are all number 4. So grab a 4. Hand drill doesn't really fit this area. You can kind of put it up, it's kind of fit, but if you can't access, usually the long one is the best. All loose. Take off these, don't lose them. Now, the riser. So these go to a specific size. This, where the cable. That would be your right size if you're standing on top of it. So, gasket right there. This one go, that one. This one, slide it in. Don't have to worry about alignment that much. This piece will keep it aligned. Put it back on, down. All right. Do a quick check. No longer screw needed. They will be fine. Make sure there's a nice gap right there for the cable to still go through. Right, now to just screw it back down and we can start reversing our step back. Make sure they are tight. All right, now put these back on. They are there to protect metal from metal when you're bottoming out your suspension. All right, top piece back on. Make sure it's the right direction. Wiggle it a bit, there you go. So how you can tell that they are at the bottom is just pretty much hitting that crevice right there that extended out a bit just to stop it so it won't go any further. Make sure it sits all the way down. Then we'll put the suspension back on first because you don't want this leaning on this part for too long. So to fix this issue, let it sit on the kickstand right there. Grab one of the pole, push upward. That's it, compressing. And keep doing it until it reaches the hole. Then wiggle a little bit till you notice it's kind of going through. Be patient, might take a few seconds. If these come out earlier, now make sure they're in and align them. Be really careful and patient with this, as you can move the slider up and down just to kind of to sit nicely in there like that. Now you can screw it in a little bit. Oh my god, I am struggling there. Screw it in, and then you move to the other side, get the other 5 to hold it in place. Oh, there you go. Yep. Tight. Make sure it's tight. None of these overlay and being crushed. Now we'll move it back up to tighten up the chassis up here. So without the kickstand, this whole tube could have slid left, right like that. So that's why we recommend having the kickstand on. It's somewhat keeping it from being a little misaligned when you're trying to screw these back on. All right, so get your 2 number 5 earlier and number 4. So for these 2 number 5, I recommend do it 90% of the way, and the rest you will have to do by hand. Get your number 5 out, use the short end, now hand tighten them. Now, the short number 4 for this. They are easily stripped. Recommend using a manual or hands, not a hand drill for these, because they are very easy to strip. It's time to put the new QS motor in. Grab one of these. This is for the spacer. So make sure you align them correctly. This long way is in. The shorter end is for forward and backward. Now, hover it a bit. Try not to let it scrape too much. As you can see up top here, I didn't fully put it in just because the cable will get crushed. Tend to get crushed if you put it here. So forward a little bit, pretty much doing a reverse what I did earlier as I pull up and then pull to the side. Cable, shows into the slot, and then itch it over. You can see as the hole lined up. Now grab your piece, the round up, so the round facing the chassis. Slide it in. This might get a little tedious, but be a little patient. Get your screw. What I like to do is zigzagging, so just align the whole thing completely. get all 4 screws slightly in. And what you're gonna have to do is start screwing each of them a little bit in and not one all the way in and move to the next. Because as you can see right here, the space is not fully sit flush already because there's already a giant gap. So a little bit would just help it raise so it don't slip inside or just worn out. So a little bit. I'll tie that one a little too much. A little bit. Next one. There you go. Now you move to the L shape just to tighten it. Do that for all 4. Now, cable. Careful right here, it's really sharp. Make sure you don't cut yourself. And the cable. And kind of just squishing it down a bit, giving it shape, guiding it. Give the cable a little shape so it's fitting. The extra protection cable should be around right there. All right, now to the protective cover. So this one's the old one, new one. The new one is longer because it also accounted for the riser that we had. So for the old one, don't fully tie it yet. Get the other Phillips, the top one. Now starting to tighten it. And it will do the job for you. Next, to the other 2. For this one, hold that extra excessive flap. As you tighten it, it wants to move. So. Last one. This one will be a little tricky. Line it, hover it a bit, and then start screwing down. As you're screwing it down, it'll start doing the job for you. Hold the flap again, and then keep screwing down. Time to loop the motor in. The order is reverse of how we did earlier. So the longest one first. So how I do it, I kind of put it sideways, squish it in a little bit, and like that, and pull it through. And then the second longest one, I point the tip forward to the hole, push it in, then push the top angle in. Third one, same thing. Again, be patient, it might give you cramps. Keep pulling until near that last one. The trickiest one, pull on top, angle it in. Push it, over and in. All right, now we just have to pour them all through, making sure all the excessive went through. Trying to get some of the cover over. They're just great to fill in the gap on the gasket, or some water resistant wise. Grab the bracket from the old motor, kind of loop through, put it through both holes of the bracket so it's kind of straight before screwing in. And number 3 Allen again. Don't fully tighten it yet, because we're still not done with fully assembling the motor. So now put the battery back on. If you don't remember which battery is the right side, this is for off the back, and to tell if it's on the left or right is the cable closest to the post, like that. And another thing to notice before you put it in is sometimes this, after you let it sit for a bit, it might move a bit and prevent this from sitting nicely. So you can use a number 4, just loosen it a bit so you can wiggle it. Straighten it up a bit, and then now you can do the battery. Now just align the hole, top and bottom. What I like to do is one top, one bottom. Not all the way in, and move to the next one. Not all the way in. The third one is when I start going all the way in. All the way in. Now tighten the first 2. And then what I do is I check, see how tight it is with your hand. Do that for all 4. Now we'll repeat for the other batteries. Okay. Cool. So this, you might encounter this when you're putting in the motor. As you can see right here, this bronze bushing right there, that's kind of sitting in the way when you put in the screw right there. So what you can do is grab a flat head, or if your finger is small enough, you can just kind of squish it, see, as it moves. Squish, squish, a little bit, little bit, little bit. And that's it. Now it's out of the way, you can just put back this. Remember, this curve up, flat bottom. Put it in, you might have to lift from right here. Just give it a little leverage. And just align it. Then put in your 4, number 5. Remember, going one by one a bit. Move to the next one. Next one. All 4 battery packs are on and tight. If you did loosen up the kickstand, do tighten those up. Now, remember about the bracket, a number 3 Allen, put them through, and tighten them. Now do that for the other sides too. Now we're gonna slip all of these connections back through the silicone gasket. There you go. And peel one side over, and do the other one. Make sure some of the white cover is also inside. Don't worry about how much first. We'll deal with that when we start plugging it in. Now, the same process for the other 3. All 4 battery cable are in the gasket. Now it's plugging this in. Now grab your electrical covers, the white ones, and do them by one. What I like to do is start with the shortest one first, as you will need the most wire bending possible to get it in. Just a little bit of the tip exposed, and you might have to bend the wire a little bit just so it fit right through the hole. You can pull these back a bit just to see which color to go where, like yellow, so yellow, blue, and green. All right, so bend the cable. I like to kind of round it like that, and trying to get it plugged in. Might be a little rough there. And push it all the way in. Make sure it sits nicely. Wiggle a little bit. Make sure it doesn't just come out super easy. Make sure you slide the cover all the way through. Gonna have to wiggle this a little bit. Like that. Now I'm moving to the middle longest, or blue. Cover it. If your cover was sliding out like this, don't push that all the way in yet. Spin it. It's another trick for that. All right. Last one. Yellow. Yellow. Make sure it's in tight. Okay. Last wire, the hall sensor. These can only go in one way. So if it doesn't fit when you plug it in, don't force it in, try the other side. And like that. Now to reinstall the headlight and then loop the 2 wire in. Grab your headlight and your 4 number 3 Allens. So beeper is always near the hole right here because the wire gotta go through here. Kind of align it, it will hang on by itself. Get the screw, align it, and then twist it in a little bit so it's kind of hold it better. Grab the second screw. Do the same for the other sides. Don't fully tighten them down yet. Headlights on. Now looping these through. Kind of angle it, just the tip of the angle in and stretch. Push it, and then I'm pressing on the plastic part, not on the cable, and then pull through. Last one, same thing, spread it, push it from the back in, plug it in first by color, white to white. They only go in one way. If it doesn't, just flip the connector. Just flip them. Give it a nudge, make sure it's all the way in. All right, our fronts are done. Now we're dealing with the battery connector. There's no particular orders you need to plug these in, just plug them in. They only go in one way. As you see, there's a crevice right there. So you can't just flip them around. One way only. Bonk. Push it in. Make sure it's go all the way in. All the way in, push it. No gap. Now do the same for the rest. Don't forget to plug in the taillight. I like to loop it back here and not going through the godway way of down here. Give it a little wiggle, make sure it's tight. There you go. And then, now we can plug in the battery. So this part, there will be a little spark, which is fine. That's it. Before putting on the screen, and get your number 3 Allen. There should be 4 for 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't tighten in the first one or the second one. Get it started in like halfway. Zigzag down to the other side. Halfway. Third one, you can go all the way in. Now go back to the first and the second one, tighten them up. Plug in the screen. Now this is the part I would recommend. Turn on your wheel, double check before you actually close up everything and then have to open up if something's wrong. Headlight works fine, the sensor. Work. All right, that's a good sign. Now we can start putting it back together. Now push this in a little bit where it's kind of sit in the divot. I like to push the excessive cable back here. Like that. Now get your cover. Now we can put this on. Remember, there's a screw with plastic washer specifically for the screen. There's no specific order. Make sure the gasket align nicely. Last one's tight. Do be careful, you don't want to crack if you over tighten it. Handlebars. These knobs will face to the back of the wheel. That's how it stopped and locked it. So press the top, slide this in. You're gonna have to wiggle it a bit, slide them down to make sure that you have the right orientation. For some reason, maybe it's your thing's facing upward. Just go at like the full length and you don't see it pulling out. All right, push it down, just make sure, yep. All right, now the two Phillips. Tighten it all the way. Now, do the same for the other side. Two Phillips are in. Now the top foam. Shh, you didn't see that. Make sure this part came through. Push it all the way down. Now, carefully screw them down. I would say go slow so you don't accidentally screw anywhere else but the hole. Last one. All right, make sure they're all tight. All right, last piece is your pedals. Now to put on your pedals. Kind of patient. Nope, there's the hole. And push the rod through. Get your 5. Make sure you push it in. Don't push too hard or it'll come out the other way. A little bit. Just enough depth so you can put in the grub screw. Put in the grub screw, number 5, Allen. If you're struggling to screw that in, you can let it sit on its face. T4 is quite stable sitting on its face. Right, now you can tighten it all the way. Make sure you tighten that one. And then repeat for the other size. Thank you for watching our video on how to upgrade your Batch 1 T4 to the QS motor. If you have any question, please reach out to us at support@alienride.com. Subscribe and let's ride.